And this particularly troubled us, given that there had been perhaps a half a dozen publications related to Fukushima that had been released prior to the release of this report, and many more related to Chernobyl effects, which are quite similar in terms of the radiation and consequences. So again, this is the primary motivation for speaking out today. You know, I guess it's really probably important to mention that the unmentionable, or what is often unmentioned, is that, you know, it's been suggested, informally perhaps, that a defensible reason for making such statements, even in the absence of rigorous scientific data, is to minimize panic and hence human stress, which is, of course, a very significant cause of disease in humans. And it is certainly conceivable that the human health consequences of such stresses could be larger than the direct health consequences of exposure to radionuclides in the environment. But to be sure, no one will ever know the answer to that particular question if, you know, if we don't actually do the research related to the radiation exposure per se.
When I started my YouTube channel in 2009, I think it was, I called myself Art Rant, and the description, they said, what is it that you're promoting? What is it that you're doing, saying, interested in? And I said, spontaneous and random insights from the studio or from the artist, something like that. And I'm going to have a spontaneous, I don't know how spontaneous, because I've been reflecting on it, thinking about it. I'm going to just sort of ramble some of my thoughts. I'm working, and I thought to myself, in the last few weeks, maybe a month, a bit longer, yeah, somewhere in there, I've sensed that there is a higher level of intensity among people that I listen to on YouTube. Some of the people that I go to get some insight. Well, I'm not sure. I can't really say it's insight. I think it's more of a feeling. I get a feeling off a lot of these people that are producing videos, if they're talking economics or Fukushima, or politics, the wars, all this kind of stuff. And I just have a sense that there is a heightened level, an intensity level. The intensity level has increased among these people. It's something that I used to keep track of Cliff High's web bots. He's kind of disappeared. I guess his intensity level went way down. And I think something is sort of in the hopper here. I can't sort of say exactly, but there is in myself too. I have a bit more of a sense of a heightened level. I mean, why should I be surprised, considering that Fukushima is raging, going on? I'm trying to keep track somewhat of the details of this monumental catastrophe unfolding in front of us. And I was working, and I thought, I'm thinking more and more these days about why we have come to the point we've come, considering that this could very well be the initial, not the initial step. I mean, Rachel Carson talked about this destruction way back in the 50s, 60s, Silent Spring. And she was a single-handed warrior on the side of humanity. She single-handedly, as far as I can tell, she actually accomplished an incredible amount, considering a diminutive woman, managed to get DDT outlawed. I mean, they're still using it in other countries. DuPont and the producers of the chemical deaths that is propagating the use of DDT in countries in Africa and India, probably. I'm not sure if those people have decided not to. I don't think here it's now called something else. It's called Roundup, and it's Monsanto and all that. And I was thinking why we have arrived at this level. And I'd like to call this, I'm ruminating on this, and I'd like to call this the ontology of destruction. Fukushima, the ontology of our destruction is hurt. Hurt. And you know, I've been going on about the idea of conscience, that we're in this shitter because we're unable to evoke within each one of us, within myself, a level of conscience, which to me means doing the right thing. Doing the right thing. Being of benefit. Doing something that will leave the place better than when I got here. This is the nature of conscience. And I'm thinking, all right, yeah, that's a principle. That is sort of a given, that we have this ability. We can make the choice. We can make the choice. Are we going to go down this road? Or are we going to go down this road? Or are we going to go down no road? Passivity. And I thought to myself, the ontology of our situation, the origin, and it's kind of metaphysical in a way, but it's very real as well. When people deal with the origins of something, where does something come from? Why are we in the shitter we're in? Why is this monumental destruction unfolding on many levels? In terms of aggression, wars, the bullies. How have we allowed the bullies to rampage through the China shop the way they're rampaging through the China shop? That's what I'm thinking about. Making some free radical paintings. I'm thinking, free radical. Okay, free radical. Be a free radical. Be a free radical in the system. Start to gnaw away at the destruction through the free radical, fighting fire with fire. It's like it's this feeling inside of me of trying to confront myself. What is it that is welling up in me, and what do I perceive? What is the sensitivity of others who are now increasing their level of alert, warning. And I'm thinking that the fundamental nature of our dilemma is that, and through my own experience, I know that this feeling of hurt, that there is something inside each one of us that has been betrayed or damaged, hurt. Most people, if not all people, have some version of this experience. And from my own sense is that when I feel hurt, I'm either going to lash out, angry, aggressive, or I withdraw into a shell. And I think this is what I see exactly. There is no in between. There is no in between this response that I have, unless, and I'll get to this, and what it is that is the counter to this hurt. And I don't think hurt can be erased. That if somebody does something to me and they apologize, or I apologize, and then the person says, yeah, it's okay, you know, I forgive you, or it's kind of like an interaction of trying to sort things out, but the hurt on some level remains. It's mitigated through an apology, or even greater, it's that if I have understood that I have created hurt, for me to ask for forgiveness for this. This is actually a much more difficult task. Think about it. It's easier to forgive, but to ask for forgiveness is much more difficult. And we're losing sight of this dynamic in culture. And I believe that civilization, and I feel that civilization, like Gandhi said it would be a good idea, is actually a promoter of hurt. It is institutionalized hurt. Culture and civilization, the way we are taught, the way we understand, the way we fit into things, is propagated on this fundamental feeling of hurting in some form or other, whether it's individuals, people against each other, or nations against each other, or the industrial military complex, the chemical complex, the nuclear complex, creating enormous destruction on the planet, is based, it's an institutionalized hurt. And it's being ignored, it's being covered up. And this feeling that we are living with this incredible destruction and hurt. It cannot be anything other than hurtful to see the extinction. Whales beaching up on the Alaska shores, millions and millions of starfish washing up dead on the sea, or huge schools of sardines floating dead in the water. This is enormous hurt. We are creating hurt because we are hurt. We are hurt. And I've talked about this in relation to children and the fact that the adult is not responsible for the child. You may provide the essentials, but the greater essential is to create within a child that feeling of total protection, that feeling of total love and care for a child, bar none. There is no excuse other than that. So if your child gets 15 or 20 immunizations by the time they're 10 days or 2 weeks old, whatever it is, this is a problem. This is a problem. To inject a child, a baby, with lethal doses of whatever these adjuvants and weird shit that they put into immunizations because technology has told us hurt is all right. Institutionalized hurt. The medical industry is institutionalized hurt. It builds from day zero virtually, from the time that we emerge. We are subjected to this institutionalized hurt, and we carry this within us. And this is why I think we're in the position we're in. We're in the position we're in. We have abdicated our responsibility, and we're saying, let the whole fucking thing go down. This is this sort of passivity, this recoiling into a shell. And then the other ones, the virulent types, come out with aggression and anger to justify the feeling of this hurt. The Rumsfelds and the Bushes, the skull and bone types, the people that belong to the clubs that propagate this feeling among, or that externalize this onto the world in their own version. They all have their own version. So I think you get, I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to build here, the concept I'm trying to build. And I'm not talking about information you get from other channels that tell you how bad things are, because we all know. We all know. We already know. We all know this is happening, and it's not yellow, it's red. It's the dreaded red. The dreaded red is happening. And I have to complete this insight that I feel I have on this by saying what I have been saying. What is the counter? Considering the fact that this is functioning. If you agree with me, or if I say that this is our fundamental problem, not that it's the idea that all of this destruction is by design. There are some very nasty creeps out there that are perpetrating this. Yes, this is by design. But what's more important is that what is the origin of this action? And it's the hurt within each individual. This part of us that's not dealt with, that's put down. It is sucked, it is pushed down into the lower echelons of our being. Our hearts are so completely inundated with this that there's very little heart feeling left, unless there is no way of mitigating hurt. There's only one way. And it comes down to what I have understood over the last few years since I've been dealing with this Fukushima emotionally, and in terms of my activism, in terms of my painting, in terms of trying to get my paintings in the public domain, which has so far, I have not succeeded. I will succeed. I will get there. I will have this happen. And I hope it happens. I really hope it happens before the panic, because what I believe will happen when this reality seeps into the frontal lobe, there's going to be panic. And people that sit back and enjoy their lives and say, well, I'm being a good person. There is no such thing as sitting back. But there is nothing that I can say that anyone should do other than what I know I need to do. And as soon as this becomes part of our being, our understanding, we will act. I am convinced that we will act once we overcome this feeling of hurt, because all our actions are predicated in some way or other, unless it's mitigated, on this feeling of having been hurt. Just look at your circumstances, and you can go probably a litany of things. And you say, well, I don't care, it doesn't matter, it's in the past. No, it's not, because on an emotional level, we don't have the luxury of our brain telling our emotions what it is we should or shouldn't feel. It doesn't work that way. And the only counter, and I'm going to end on this, the ontology of our destruction, what we're facing with Fukushima and all the other usual suspects of our destruction, can only be medicated. I need some medication. Can only be mitigated through acts of caring, the kindness and generosity that we're capable of. In essence, that feeling within each one of us that needs to come to the, somehow we need to rise up in this in a day-to-day sense. It's not like going on the barricades holding the placards, which is great to make people aware that this is happening, although I say everybody knows, it's just been suppressed. And this is the antidote to this destruction, what I've been saying. But I thought I'd elucidate, because I'm always sort of ruminating about things like this. When I'm working, it kind of comes up, and I realized, where is the beginning of this destruction? And it goes back. If you go back to the divine right of kings, we go back to Akhenaten, that Egyptian mythology, and all these weird things that are recorded supposedly over 6,000 years. We really have no idea. People tell us shit, and we really don't know. We accept something. So we absorb this history and say, well, it's perfectly all right. There's a holier than thou. Some are more equal than others, George Orwell, right? This is how it works. And we absorb this, we accept this, and we continue to propagate this hurt through this history. And the history, what is consensual, what is designed to be the inculcation of our essence. Our essence is being withdrawn with this history, because we're set in the belief that it has to be a certain way. This is history. History instructs how we should behave. And the idea that if you don't know history, you're going to repeat it, yes, of course. But even more important, that if you actually absorb or listen to history, most of history, probably 95% or more, it's all destruction. It's all about destruction. Then the idea that if you don't know history, you repeat, well, has that helped? Has that worked? If somebody says, everybody that are scholars of history and they repeat the same shit, they do the same everything over and over, no, it has to stop. And the only way this will stop is if each one of us, if I can actually, in my day-to-day life, begin to do the right thing on every single event, whether that is just personally in my studio, on the work that I make, the paintings, in my relationships with people, in my extended relationship with my community, and it starts to thin out. After the community, the town I live in, it starts to get thinner, because then it becomes more ethereal. It's not as real anymore, because I'm not able to go to Fukushima with a shovel and fix it. I wish I could, but I can't. We need to rally the people that have that expertise and understanding. And the only way it's going to happen is if we accept this hurt and mitigate and try to overcome it, not through passivity, recoiling, or aggression, but to begin to care. And that's what I've always been saying. So I just thought I'd elaborate on the origin, the ontology of the destruction is in our profound feeling of having been hurt. And I hope that makes sense. I thought it did. I think it does.